Hi guys, Vieko here. So after yesterday's rest day, which depressed chess fans worldwide, the two best players in the world are back in action. And today they played game 3 of their World Chess Championship match, which also ended in a draw and which was kinda similar to the previous two games, because once again the player with the black pieces didn't experience a hint of the problems. So let's look what happened in the game, how the game went. Caruana played 1e4, he decided to stick to his first move, possibly to have another shot at the Sicilian, and of course Magnus repeated the opening. He has no reason not to play it, considering how game 1 went, and possibly it is possible that Caruana has not seriously prepared for this line, or maybe just he didn't count on Sicilian appearing in this match. And okay, so after knight f3, knight c6, Caruana repeated the Rossolimo. We're all curious what Carlsen has prepared against d4, but so far Caruana hasn't dared to challenge him in the main lines. So after knight bishop b5, g6, bishop takes c6, d takes c6, d3, bishop g7, it was all seen in the first game. And here Caruana is the first to deviate, as he played the move castling. Actually, if you may remember, Peter Silver said that h3 is more precise, but I'm not quite sure why, and well, castling has been played by many strong players like Anand, and it is another theoretical move. And here Carlsen is once again the first to get his surprise into action. He plays queen c7. This is a very rare move, and according to my database this was black's choice in only 4 games, although they all ended in white wins. So what is the point of this move? Well, actually black develops a queen, this semi-waiting. He kinda waits to see what white will do, and he also prepares a future e5, and then according to the circumstances, he may develop knight to e7 and go f5, or he may simply put the knight to f6, as he actually did in the game. So it's semi-flexible move, useful move with a queen that retains some options for black. And here Caruana immediately makes a move that I'm not quite sure is the strongest. He plays rook e1. So the idea of the move is obviously to push e5, but the problem is that the rook is maybe better on f1 than on e1. For instance, a move that is possible with a similar idea is queen e2, and after, let's say, sample line e5, bishop e3, b6, I don't know, a4, a5, knight bd2, knight e7, knight c4, this is all, let's say, natural. Here white has a very important idea. He can play knight fd2, and after some move by black, let's say bishop x6, he can go f4. And here we see that this rook on f1 is much more actively placed than he is on it would be on e1. So yeah, this is just, of course I'm not that well acquainted with this variation, but I think that rook e1, it was never seen before. It is actually the actual novelty of the game, but after black's reply e5, it kinda loses its venom, because white is now not realistically close to the f4 plan, and he basically has to choose the plan chosen by Caruana with the game. He played a3. And the point of a3 is common, it prepares b4. It may look silly to undouble the pawns, black c pawns, after black takes, but the idea is that if black does that, white will get the open a file, he will be able to develop the bishop, and he will get a lot of play against both e5 and against the structure on the queen side. He will also have these squares. Sorry, he also have squares c5 and a5, and yeah, it is a common theme in this particular variation, Sicilian. And here Magnus plays knight f6, which is, in my opinion, a very good move, because let's say after knight e7, which he might have intended, e3, b6, b4, he already has to take on b4, because now knight d7 defending the c5 pawn is not possible. Of course, he can also play a5 probably, radically preventing b4, but here he has to reckon with bishop e3, b6, knight bd2, and now let's say knight e7, knight c4 castling, and here b4. So of course if black decides to take with the c pawn, he will run into something like bishop b6, and he will be close to loss probably already. So yeah, okay, and obviously black doesn't need to allow this, but it's just an illustration why a5 has its problems. Okay, it prevents b4 for the moment, but in the future it might run into some issues. Okay, so knight f6, b4, and here Magnus plays a very active and daring move, so to speak. He plays castling. Of course, as I have mentioned, black doesn't really want to castle, because after c takes b4, a takes b4, long castling, white has many ideas. He can either go bishop d2, he can play bishop b2, and then say after knight d7, knight bd2, he has the plan of playing rook a3 and queen a1, and he pressures both e5 and a7, then knight b3 is coming, and he can possibly also go for c4. And yeah, he obviously has plenty of ideas. Actually, Svidler said that it is not... Black really doesn't want to play this, because all white's next moves are quite natural. So, castling. And Caruana played knight bd2. Of course, if he takes on c5, black can just play knight d7. This is the point of knight f6. And white can't really defend the pawn, because after bishop e3, f5, you will get f4, and then the knight will capture, and yeah, there is no way to prevent black from recapturing this pawn. So yeah, Caruana decides to wait, because obviously black still doesn't want to take on d4, as mentioned earlier. So bishop g4. As beginners, we are taught that this spin is seldom good, but Carlsen simply decides to simplify the position. He has to develop the bishop, and of course bishop d7 is somewhat clumsy, and bishop e6 run into a concrete problem, because it allows bishop b2. And now you have to defend the e5 pawn, it's threatened, so you have to play knight d7, but now white can play knight g5. And after rook e8, knight takes e6, rook takes e6. Okay, it's probably not the end of the road for black, but you have taken his bishop pair, and Magnus probably didn't want to allow it, because you don't have a follow-up as in the game, and this rook on e6 is somewhat clumsy. So Magnus decides on bishop g4, which actually also gets rid of this bishop, but under different circumstances. And of course, h3 is the obvious reply, and bishop takes f3. The commentators were toying with the idea of bishop h5, but of course, after g4, knight takes g4, h takes g4, bishop takes g4, things don't really work, because after queen e2, f5, and either queen e3 or queen f1, f takes e4, knight h2, white is simply winning here. Black doesn't have enough compensation. So he decides to take on f3, which is logical, and here white plays knight f3. There was something to be told about queen f3, but then again the same line, c takes b4, a takes b4, and then a5, and this queen is probably slightly misplaced, because it should be somewhere on the queen side, and here she has nothing to do. So knight f3 was played, sorry, c takes b4, a takes b4, and a5. This is the point of black's play. He gets rid of the weakness on a7, and he decides to simplify the position, to exchange some pieces, and in general, I think he has already equalized after a5. The engines might not agree, but I think in practical play, because that was now his only weakness, and it's he's very solid after this move. So b takes a5, rook takes a5, and now bishop d2, rook a8 back. You don't really want to take on a1, because then white has the control of the f-file. So he goes back with the rook, queen b1, knight d7, getting the knight into action, queen b4, eyeing the e7 square, rook f e8, bishop c3. Of course, you don't really want to give black the a5 as well, so because queen e7 now does nothing due to bishop f8. So bishop c3 was played, trying to create some pressure against the e5, trying to covering a1 as well. But after b5, gaining some space and getting rid of this weakness, improving the position of this pawn, well, there's nothing really white can play for. So here Caruana already reconciled himself with a draw. Of course, after queen b2, rook takes, knight c5, and now knight a4. Okay, it's not terrible, but it's unnecessary to allow it. So rook takes c8 is more direct. It asks for simplification. Rook a8, rook a1, rook takes a1, bishop takes a1, queen a7, bishop c3, more or less all logical. And here Magnus played excellent move, queen e2, which basically forces a draw, or simplifies to a draw. It's the most direct way. And the idea of the move is based on the very precise calculation, because you have to reckon with queen e7 here. But after the line that starts with queen takes c2, queen takes d7, queen takes c3, queen e8 check, bishop f8, knight takes e5. Now this threat of knight d7 looks deadly, but actually black is in time. He can play queen e1 check. For some reason Sweden only considered queen c1 check and then getting the queen to f4, but queen e1 is even better because you pick up the pawn in the process. So after king h2, queen takes f2, knight d7, queen f4 check, king h1, and queen d6, e5, queen e7. This was all considered by commentators. c8, queen c8, and b4. I think only black can win this endgame because this pawn is dangerous, and yeah, let's say if you take on f8, take with the queen, take, you are already risking a bit, because in the resulting queen endgame this pawn is more dangerous than this one. So yeah, this was a bit long variation, but it's more or less forced, and I think Carlsen had to see a lot, or big part of it, when he decided on queen a2, and Caruana played queen b2, simply forcing the simplification, the queen exchange. There is no way black can avoid it because his e5 pawn is hanging, but now queen takes b2, bishop takes b2 and f6, and this is obviously completely equal. It should end in a draw, but even here Carlsen, true to his character, decides to play on a bit, decides to push, because he has some prospects of creating an outside pass pawn, and in general his pawn structure is slightly more compact, and okay, he has a bit more space. It's not much, but enough for Carlsen to play on. So we'll go over the remainder of the game briefly. King f1, king f7, king e2, knight c5, bishop c3, knight e6, moving the knight to this beautiful square, threatening just some jumps maybe in the future. g3 preventing knight f4, bishop f8, knight d2, bishop g5, trying to provoke the advance of h, actually forcing the advance of the h pawn, just h4, knight e6. This is very instructive, you know, just with the move here and there, trying to see what your opponent will do and not rushing anything. So knight b3, h5, bishop d2, bishop d6, c3, c5, e3. Now getting in your king. Obviously b4 doesn't achieve much now because white is not forced to take. He can play king d1, and after c takes b3, sorry, b takes c3, king c2, you haven't really achieved anything. So yeah, okay, Magnus decides to wait and to improve his king. King e7, king d1, king d7, king c2, now f5, king d1, just waiting to see. And here actually is probably the only interesting moment of this endgame. Magnus played if takes e4, which more or less is immediately leads to draw. But here there was a very nice variation I have discovered after some clicking with the engine and you know, trying to see what is happening here. So f4 is a move possible. Of course you don't want to take with the g pawn, because then you will leave your h pawn isolated and weak. So you go bishop c1 here, and now c4. It looks counterintuitive, but the idea is to isolate the e4 pawn and then to try to win it. So after, oops, sorry, I'm totally out of shape here. Sorry about that. So f4, bishop c1, we were here, if you remember. So d takes c4, b takes c4, knight d2, f takes g3, f takes g3, and now knight c5. Obviously you don't want to take on c4, because if you then he takes on e4 and both these pawns will be hanging. So after this you have some problems, you're probably losing. So of course, obviously most direct way here is bishop a3, and after knight takes, bishop a3, knight d2, and you pick up the c4 pawn and you have nothing to fear. But you can go wrong here. I actually tried waiting passively with king c2, but then you get king c6, let's say bishop b2, king b5, defending the pawn, bishop c1, and now knight d3, and you actually have some issues. The bishop c5 is coming, maybe bishop f2, and yeah, black can play this position. His pieces are active and you're running short of moves, so you need to be careful a bit. Of course, Caruana would have probably seen bishop a3, but still. And okay, after f takes c4, basically nothing happened for the remainder of the game. D takes c4, c4, knight d2, knight c5, take. And now, apart from the fact that white can create a pass pawn of his own, there is another factor that will, as we will see, it will be quite important. So king e2, king c6, knight f1, b4. C takes b4, bishop takes b4. So yeah, this pass looks a bit dangerous, but white has a very concrete way of dealing with it. Knight e3, king c5, f4, e takes f4. I'm not sure, king d4 is probably dangerous due to knight c2, but okay, you can't really do that. So e takes f4, g takes f4, bishop a5, trying to get in king d4, but now f5 basically forces the draw, because after g takes f5, knight takes c4, this is the point, king takes c4, e takes f5, we have a draw. The game is drawn because this bishop is of the wrong color, so the color of the corner pawn is white, and I think we all know that this is a drawn position despite the extra piece. If you don't know, you might want to check it in some endgame manual, but basically black has no way of winning this position, and the players agreed to a draw here. So yeah, it was another very interesting game where, you know, the players, I think, are starting a new chapter in the development of this variation of the Rosolimo Sicilian, and so far Magnus has displayed he is excellently prepared, and that he also understands these positions probably better than Caruana. Whether Caruana will stick to his choice or try something else, it remains to be seen. I assume he'll either go for the main line or for the Sicilian, or open with d4. But you know, he has to defend with the black pieces in game 4. Okay, so thank you for watching this video. As usual, you may want to check the previous two videos from games 1 and 2. The links will be given at the end of this video. And also, you know, many people are analyzing these games, so I'd like to give my own recommendation. I personally prefer Chess.com reports, and particularly because Alex Yarmolinsky analyzes the games. And for those of you who haven't heard of him, he's an old school Russian GM. I think he looks like he could be in his 50s or even 60s. I hope he won't get offended if he ever hears this, which is very unlikely. And I think he understands chess very well. He analyzes, I think, without engine, or very little with engine, and you know, he, especially in end games, he displays masterful understanding, and you know, I have really learned a lot from him. So yeah, if you have the opportunity, I highly recommend you check one of his videos. You will not regret it. Okay, so that's all for today, and see you tomorrow or 2 days from now, when we will make the video of game 4. Hopefully praising Carlsen's win, because Team Carlsen. Goodbye, guys.